2 years of false accusations from my kids, CPS cases, and court hearings. Later, I've finally realized my kids were being coached by my ex-wife to destroy me. Hey Reddit, so I've been lurking here for a while but never thought I'd end up posting. Turns out life had other plans. The last 2 years have been the roughest I've ever faced, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around how fast things spiraled. I'm not here for sympathy. I just need to get this off my chest and maybe hear some outside perspectives, because honestly, I don't even know if I handled things the right way. I Bill, 38 male, work as a plumber. Not some glamorous job, but it pays the bills, and then some. I've been at it for years, and anyone who's ever spent half their day wedged under a sink with water dripping down their back knows it's not easy work. That night, nothing felt off. I walked through the door late, around 9 or so, after a brutal day of chasing leaks in an old apartment complex. My knees were sore, shirt-stained, and my hands smelled like copper pipe even after I washed up at the shop. My wife, well, at the time still my wife, was passed out on the couch. She barely looked up when I came in. That wasn't unusual. We'd been distant for a while. The kids, though, they popped out of their room as soon as they heard the door. My daughter, 12, and my son, 10. I sat down with them in the kitchen, asked about their day. I got them brushed, tucked in, and settled upstairs. They weren't upset. They weren't crying. Nothing was strange. Just another normal night. After that, I took a quick shower to get the grime off me, heated up leftovers, and ate standing at the counter while scrolling through my phone. I turned the lights off and went to bed. Then, not even morning yet, it happened. There's this pounding at the front door. Not knocking. Pounding, like they're trying to bust the thing in. I stumble out of bed, still half asleep, throw on a shirt and jog downstairs. I open the door and bam! 2 cops and a CPS worker are standing there, flashlights in my face. My stomach dropped instantly because you just know nothing good comes from CPS showing up at your house at 5 a.m. They ask if I'm Bill. I say yeah. Then they hit me with it. My kids had been found wandering the streets in the middle of the night. Some city workers picked them up, and according to them, I had kicked them out of the house, locked the door, and told them not to come back. I remember just staring at them, thinking, what? Like I didn't even process the words. My kids? The same kids I tucked in? The ones who were giggling and showing me Legos 2 hours earlier? I actually laughed because it sounded so ridiculous. But nobody else was laughing. The CPS lady looked at me like I was already guilty. Then one of the officers said they had already spoken to my wife, and that both her version and what the kids told them matched up against me. According to their report, all 3 had said the same thing, that I'd gotten angry, shoved the kids out the door, and told them not to come back. That was enough for them to call it probable cause. I told them exactly what I did that night. Came home, tucked the kids in, showered, ate, went to bed. That was it. But it didn't matter. The cops had that look in their eyes like they'd already decided how this was going to go down. I tried to explain, but they weren't listening. One of them even cut me off mid-sentence and said, "Sir, you're under arrest for child abandonment." Next thing I know, I'm in cuffs, standing barefoot on my own porch, while the neighbors start peeking out their windows. One guy across the street even stepped outside to watch. The cops are walking me to the car, and the CPS worker is snapping pictures of my house. Humiliating doesn't even cover it. I fix busted sewer lines for a living. I've been elbow deep in grease traps, and none of that felt as dirty as standing there in handcuffs while my neighbors judged me. They hauled me in, booked me like some criminal. The whole time I kept thinking, if my kids are safe, why am I the one getting dragged through this? But the system doesn't work like that. Somebody makes an accusation, especially when it involves kids, and you're guilty until proven otherwise. Period. I bailed myself out the same day, wiped out most of the little savings I had. My parents picked me up from the jail, and I ended up staying with them because I couldn't go back home. It was like my whole life had just split in 2 overnight. Yesterday, I was a tired plumber coming home to tuck his kids in. Now I was a guy with a record, looking at losing his job, his house, and maybe even his kids for good. I laid in that guest bed at my parents' house that night, staring at the ceiling, mind racing. My name was already in the system. CPS was involved. My neighbors probably thought I was some monster. And the worst part? I didn't even know why. I kept going over it in my head. What did I miss? What made them run? Why would they say I kicked them out when I tucked them in myself? None of it made sense. But one thing did hit me. I couldn't afford to just sit there and hope the truth came out on its own. If this was the game now, I'd have to play it different. From that night forward, I decided I was keeping records of everything. Every receipt, every call, every text. Because clearly, in this world, being innocent wasn't enough. Living at my parents' place felt like being 17 again. Except instead of arguing about curfew, I was trying to figure out how not to end up in prison for something I didn't do. My parents were supportive, but you could tell they were walking on eggshells. They didn't know what to say. Mom kept making food, Dad kept telling me to keep my head down, but neither of them had ever been through anything like this. I was on my own. Work was the only thing keeping me sane. I showed up every day, dirty uniform, tools in hand, same as always. My boss pulled me aside after that first week and said he'd heard rumors. Neighbors talk, cops in front of your house gets around quick. He told me straight, I don't know what happened, but I know you. You do your job, you don't cause trouble. Don't let this take you out. That actually gave me a boost, like at least one part of my life was still stable. Then the CPS meeting started. They don't play around. First time I walked into that bland office with the fake plants and the stale coffee smell, I knew it wasn't about family support. It was an interrogation with a smile. They had my wife sitting in another room, they had me in mine, and they cycled between us. Questions about bedtimes, meals, discipline, money, routines, stuff that felt normal to me suddenly sounded like a crime when they wrote it down. The worst was when they started talking to my daughter. I didn't get to sit in, obviously, but they told me pieces. She was saying things that didn't even make sense, like how I made her sleep outside sometimes. Total lies. Then they'd come back and grill me about it like it was fact. I stuck to my story. She was in her bed, I tucked her in, end of discussion. Then came the big one. One session, they called me back into the office after meeting with her. The CPS worker had that look, like she was bracing for impact. She tells me my daughter just said I did something sexual to her. I swear the room went cold. For a second, I thought I misheard. Then it hit me. She was accusing me of the worst thing a father can be accused of. But here's the thing. I didn't panic. I'd been working this job too long to crack under pressure. When you're under a house with sewage pouring everywhere, you can't freak out, you have to think. Same here. I looked the CPS worker dead in the eye and asked, okay, did she give you any details? Anything at all? Or just that sentence? The worker blinked, kind of caught off guard. She admitted my daughter hadn't given any details. Just the statement. I leaned forward and said, you notice why? Because it didn't happen. If it happened, she'd have details. But she doesn't, because it's not real. Later that same day, the CPS worker pulled me aside after her interview. She said my daughter had broken down during questioning and admitted she made the story up. She told them she just didn't know what else to say when they kept pressing her, so she blurted out the worst thing she could think of. Once she started crying, the truth came out fast. My son was in another room, and when they spoke with him, he admitted the runaway story was her idea too. He said he just went along with it because she'd been watching prank videos online and thought it would be funny. Except it wasn't. It nearly ruined me. That cracked the whole thing open. When that truth came out, I thought I'd feel relief. Charges were dropped, CPS said the investigation was closed, and my daughter was ordered into counseling. They even admitted some of her answers sounded rehearsed from the start. You'd think I'd walk out of there free, but I didn't feel free. I felt poisoned. Like no matter what I did, that stink was going to stick to me. People hear those kinds of accusations and they don't forget. Doesn't matter if it's proven false later. Good thing I'd already been documenting everything. By then it was second nature. I also doubled down on therapy. Not because I was falling apart, but because I wanted to be sharper. If they were going to throw lies at me again, I'd be ready. No fumbling, no confusion. Straight facts, straight evidence. At home, though, things were broken. My wife acted like nothing happened. She never once admitted she believed me or didn't believe me. She just stayed quiet, like she was waiting to see which way the wind blew. I'd catch her scrolling on her phone while I was making dinner, acting like the past month hadn't happened. That silence cut worse than if she'd screamed at me. Even though the official case was marked closed, CPS slapped a short-term safety plan on us. That meant random check-ins and follow-up calls, which sometimes forced me to crash at my parents' place just to keep everything by the book. So yeah, on paper it was over, but in reality I was still under a microscope. Imagine that, working 12 hours fixing busted toilets, coming home, and then having to drive back to your parents because someone might decide you can't be trusted in your own house. The worst part was knowing it wasn't over. CPS doesn't just close the file and forget. They keep tabs, they send you letters, call you in for follow-ups, keep your name in their system, and once you're in, you're in. You're on the radar. So yeah, the charges got dropped. My daughter went to counseling. My son tried to act like nothing happened, but I knew better. That wasn't the end of anything. It was just the start. CPS said the case was closed, But closed doesn't mean forgotten. It's like they branded me. Every knock at the door after that made me tense up, thinking it was them again. Still, I tried to push forward. I told my wife we needed family therapy. Real therapy. All of us together. Not just me seeing someone by myself. She nodded, said she'd look into it, and then never brought it up again. Every week I'd mention it. Every week she had an excuse. The timing isn't good. The kids don't want to go. I'm too busy with errands. Always something. Then Hurricane Milton hit. We weren't in the direct line of destruction, but it was enough to knock power out, flood basements, and leave half the city scrambling. Our apartment complex got waterlogged. Ceiling leaks, carpets soaked, walls smelling like mildew in days. The landlord told everyone to pack up and clear out so they could gut the place. We had maybe a week to get our stuff out. I handled most of it. Between jobs, I was hauling boxes down 3 flights of stairs, loading up my work van, and making runs to storage. My wife barely lifted a finger. She'd sit on the couch scrolling her phone, telling me she had a headache. The kids helped a little, but it was me sweating it out. While digging through a pile of junk mail stacked behind the microwave stand, I found a shoebox crammed full of unopened envelopes, credit card statements, utility bills, and 2 envelopes from CPS and the counseling center. I tore them open right there. One wasn't about the investigation I'd already been dealing with. It was a reminder about a family therapy intake appointment that had been set up for all of us months earlier. Because she hid it, it looked like I was ignoring court-recommended follow-up, when in reality, I didn't even know it was scheduled. The other was a notice about overdue utility payments that could have gotten our power shut off if I hadn't been paying extra through my bank app without even realizing it. That's when it clicked. She wasn't just lazy, she was sabotaging me, making me look like I was ignoring CPS, like I didn't care about the bills, while she was the one hiding the letters. I carried that shoebox straight to the living room and dumped it on the coffee table in front of her. She didn't even look up from her phone at first. "What's this?" she asked, all flat like she was annoyed I'd interrupted her scrolling. I told her exactly what it was. Proof she'd been hiding important mail and trying to make me look like the screw-up. Proof she was undermining me every step of the way. She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic. It's just junk. Half that stuff's late fees and spam." Spam? CPS letters are spam now? I slammed my hand on the stack. "This is why we're drowning. This is why they think I don't care. Because you're hiding the damn mail while I'm working 12-hour days to keep the lights on." And you know what she did? She laughed. Actually laughed in my face. "Oh, please. You think you're some hero because you fix pipes? You wouldn't last a day if I didn't handle the kids. But go ahead. Blame me for everything. You always do." That's when I realized there wasn't anything left to fix. She wasn't ignorant. She was willfully horrible. She wanted me to fail. Every time I tried to pull us out of the mud, she shoved us deeper. I didn't yell. I just stared at her and said, "You want me to fail because if I'm the bad guy, you get to play the victim. But you're not fooling me anymore." She scoffed, muttered something about me being paranoid, and went back to her phone like I wasn't even standing there. That was the last time I tried to have a real conversation with her. The rest of the move, I did alone. Box after box, sweating through my clothes, while she sat inside with the AC blasting on her. My son asked if I needed help. I told him no, go play, because I didn't want him to see me like that, doing everything by myself while his mom couldn't even be bothered to pack her own stuff. By the end of that week, we were officially displaced, living out of bags, bouncing between my parents and a friend's place, and through all that chaos, she acted like it was normal. No guilt, no shame, nothing. Just scrolling TikTok while I hauled our lives into boxes. A couple weeks later, she dropped it on me like it was nothing. We were sitting in the car outside a grocery store. I was running numbers in my head, figuring out how we'd afford both rent and storage fees, when she just said, "I want a divorce." No fight, no emotion, just flat, like she was ordering coffee. I looked at her for a long second and then said, "Fine." I didn't yell, didn't beg, didn't ask why, because I already knew why. She'd been working against me for months, and now she thought she won. But I wasn't done. After she asked for the divorce, I put my head down and started grinding. I needed a place to live, something stable so I wasn't crashing at my parents forever. Between jobs, I was scrolling rental listings, calling landlords, setting up showings. Most of them wanted first and last month's rent, plus deposit. That's almost $3,000 right there, and plumbers don't exactly get bonuses. Still, I found a small house that fit what I needed. Not fancy, but clean, close to work, big enough for the kids if they ever came back around. On June 10th, I was running around handling the pre-signing stuff, utility hookups, bank transfers, and paperwork with the landlord. Then, on June 11th, I signed the papers. Deposit, first month, last month, and utility hookups all in one go. Just over $3,500 bled straight out of my account. I screenshotted every receipt, every confirmation, added them to my growing folder of proof. That same day, I had the kids for a few hours. Took them to the park before dropping them at their mom's parents'. They were running around, climbing, laughing, being silly. I even recorded short videos of them playing tag, my son hanging off the monkey bars like he was Spider-Man. They looked happy. Nothing seemed wrong. June 12th, I told my wife flat out, "Bills are tight this month. I'll get everything caught up, but a couple payments will be late." She barely reacted, just muttered figures, and went back to scrolling her phone. Then came June 14th. I was in the middle of a job replacing a busted water heater when a sheriff's deputy walked into the shop. He had an envelope in his hand and my name on his lips. My stomach sank before he even said what it was. He served me with an emergency protection order. I skimmed the paperwork and felt my blood pressure spike. It claimed I hit my son at a grocery store on June 10th, that I gave him a concussion, and apparently my wife had taken him to the ER on June 14th, 4 days later, because he had dizziness, lightheadedness, and a nosebleed. It didn't even line up. I had receipts and videos showing exactly where I was. None of it made sense. I didn't waste time. After work, I drove straight to the grocery store listed in the paperwork, found a manager and asked about their security cameras. He pointed to the ceiling and said the whole front half of the store is covered. I wrote down his name and the time. If this went to court, I was pulling that footage. I called my therapist the next day and told her everything. She listened, then said, "It sounds like your ex is escalating." I already knew that. First the runaway stunt, then the fake accusations, now this. She was pushing harder because I told her money was tight. That was her play. Hit me where I was vulnerable. I dropped the kids at my grandparents' on June 11th. That was the last time I saw them. Once she filed the EPO, I was legally barred from contact. No visits, no calls, nothing. It didn't matter that the claims were bogus. Until the hearing, the order meant I couldn't see or even call my kids without risking another arrest. June 15th, I pulled up the bank app and screenshotted every transaction from the weekend in question. Gas station stops, Walmart runs, even the time I signed the deposit for the new house. All time-stamped. I added those to my folder. I made copies of the park videos and backed them up twice. I called the sheriff's office myself and asked for clarification. The deputy I spoke to said the report was filed by my wife, that the alleged incident happened on June 10th, but since I hadn't been arrested this time, it was strictly tied to the protection order hearing. He suggested I gather whatever evidence I had. I almost laughed. Gathering evidence was the only thing I'd been doing for months. I was already on the phone with a lawyer, scheduling a consultation. I didn't care about the retainer fee. I'd rather go broke fighting than sit back and let this woman bury me alive. On June 19th, CPS called. New agent, new county, because that's where my wife had moved the kids. I sat through another interview, repeated my side, and handed over copies of receipts, videos, and timelines. The agent seemed surprised I had so much documentation ready. I told her flat out, "After last year, I don't go anywhere without proof." I went back to the grocery store again, this time during my lunch break. Talked to a different manager, asked again about footage. He told me the tapes don't keep forever, and that if I needed them, I'd better have law enforcement pull them soon. I called my lawyer and gave him that information immediately. A week later, the sheriff's office confirmed they requested the footage, but the retention window had already rolled over. Still, the request itself went into the file, showing I hadn't ignored it. I'd chased it down. My stress was through the roof, but I wasn't breaking. Not this time. She wanted me to lose my cool, to slip up, to look like the angry bad guy. Instead, I was building my defense piece by piece. I didn't know what the judge was going to say yet, but I had proof stacked higher than her lies. But deep down, I also knew this wasn't about one accusation. This was her strategy now. And if she was willing to fake a concussion story, I had to be ready for whatever came next. First, I met with the state trooper again. I laid out my receipts, screenshots, and the park videos. He flipped through them and nodded. "This is solid, but you know this isn't a criminal case right now. It's tied to the protection order hearing." "I know," I said, "but I want it in writing that I've been handing you proof since day one." He gave me a look like he respected the hustle. That was good enough. Next stop was CPS in the new county. Different caseworker, same stale office. I set my binder on the desk and opened it like I was about to pitch a project. Receipts, medical paperwork that didn't match the timeline, videos of the kids running around the park on the exact day she claimed I hurt my son. The caseworker was surprised. Most parents don't come in this prepared. Most parents aren't being set up, I said flat. She scribbled notes. I left feeling like I had at least made a dent. But the real fireworks came 2 nights later. I was on my ladder mounting a new security camera over the porch light when her car screeched up to the curb. Door slammed, and there she was, marching up the walkway like she owned the place. "You think you can just move out here and act like this never happened?" she shouted. I stayed on the ladder, drilling the bracket in place. "I don't think anything," I said, without looking at her. "I'm setting up my home." She barked a laugh. "Your home? You wouldn't even have this dump if I hadn't carried your kids all these years. You're a joke, pretending like you're some stable dad. Meanwhile, I'm the one taking care of them while you run away." I climbed down slowly, wiped my hands, and pulled out my phone. Recording. "I didn't run. I got shoved out by your lies. Big difference." That set her off. She stepped right up in my face, jabbing a finger at my chest. "You're gonna pay, whether you like it or not. Money, visits, everything. You're not walking away from me. You owe me." "I don't owe you anything outside of what the court orders," I said. My voice was low, calm. "And until that happens, you're not getting a dime. I'm not your wallet anymore." She sneered, then suddenly staggered back like I'd shoved her. She slammed against the railing and screamed, "He pushed me! He just pushed me!" Her voice echoed down the block. Porch lights flicked on. She kept yelling, "Call somebody! He hit me!" Before I could even respond, my neighbor Daniels came striding across the street. Old mechanic, built like a brick wall even in his 60s. "That's enough!" he barked. He pointed straight at her. "I've been standing here the whole damn time. He didn't touch you." Her eyes darted between him and my phone, still recording. The act was crumbling right in front of her. She tried to save it. "You don't know what you saw." But Daniels cut her off. "Lady, I saw everything. You staged that, and you're wasting everyone's time. If he needs a statement, I'll give it." She froze, face twisting with anger, then spun on her heel and stormed back to her car. Tires squealed as she peeled away down the street. Daniels turned to me. "You keep that recording, and if she tries this again, you call me. I'll back you up." "Appreciate it," I said. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. Next morning, CPS showed up unannounced. 2 workers with clipboards. "We need to inspect the home." "Come in," I said, waving them through. Kitchen spotless, laundry folded, binder of receipts sitting right on the table. They checked every room, nodded at the security cameras I'd already installed, and asked a few questions. Before they left, I told them what happened the night before, and gave them Daniel's name and number. They wrote it down without a word, but one of them gave me this look like she already knew my ex was playing games. When they left, I drove straight to the store and bought a discreet body cam. Something I could clip under my shirt anytime I was near her or the kids. I wasn't going to let she said, ruin me again. That evening, I sat at the table, logbook open, binder beside me. Every day was getting an entry. Where I went, what I spent, who I saw. It looked obsessive, but it wasn't. It was ammo. Later that week, I sat down with my lawyer again. I handed over the new footage, the CPS notes, and Daniel's info. He shook his head. "She's not building a case, she's building a reputation for lying. If she keeps this up, we'll push for sanctions. Maybe even block her from filing without evidence." I leaned back in the chair. For the first time in months, I felt like I wasn't just surviving. I had proof. I had a witness. I had the system starting to see through her act. She wanted to bury me, but now, every stunt she pulled was just more evidence in my corner. The hearing came quick. June 21st. I walked into the courthouse with my binder tucked under my arm, lawyer at my side. Across the aisle, she was already there, whispering with her attorney, smirking like she'd already won. Her lawyer opened with a whole speech about me being volatile and a danger to the children. He tried to tie the runaway story and the supposed concussion into a pattern of me being unfit. Same script, just louder. My lawyer didn't flinch. When it was our turn, he laid out the binder. Receipts from Walmart on June 10th. Bank statements matching the timestamps. Park videos of the kids laughing and climbing the monkey bars on June 11th. He even had Daniel's statement from the porch incident ready if it came up. The judge leaned forward, asked her lawyer if he had any evidence to contradict any of it. He shuffled papers, but there was nothing but her word. Then came the slip. The judge asked her directly when this grocery store incident supposedly happened. She blurted June 12th before her lawyer hissed at her to correct herself back to June 10th. Wrong date. My lawyer pounced immediately. "So which is it? June 10th, like the report says, or June 12th, like she just testified?" She stammered. muttered about being confused. The judge's face didn't move, but the air in that room changed. Her lawyer tried to pivot. Even if the specific date is in question, the overall pattern of behavior, the judge cut him off. There is no pattern. 2 prior allegations were dismissed. One was admitted false, now another with no evidence. That's not a pattern of misconduct. That's a pattern of false reporting. And that line hit like a hammer. She sat frozen, whispering frantically to her lawyer. The judge leaned back, folded his hands, and said it clear. The emergency protection order is dismissed. I kept my face neutral, binder still under my arm, but inside I felt the weight lift. The judge added that custody and support would be decided in December, not today. She tried to argue about immediate restrictions on me seeing the kids, but he shut her down fast. That will be decided at the proper hearing. Today's order is dismissed. And that was it. Case closed. For now. As everyone filed out, she gave me another one of those smug little smirks, like she hadn't just been embarrassed in front of a judge. I leaned in just enough so only she could hear me. Keep filing lies, I said quietly. Every time you do, I'll be ready. And every time, you'll lose. She froze for a second, then turned away, storming out. I thought that was the end of the day. But then came the twist. In the hallway outside, I saw my kids. CPS had them with a worker waiting near the benches. My son waved a little, awkward. My daughter looked nervous, eyes darting around. When the CPS worker stepped away to take a call, she walked over to me quick, clutching her backpack strap. "Dad," she whispered. I crouched down. "What is it?" Her voice shook. "It wasn't me. Mom told me to say those things. About you kicking us out, and about my brother getting hurt. She made me practice it." My chest tightened, but I kept my face steady. "She told you to?" She nodded, eyes filling. "She said if I didn't, bad stuff would happen, and she promised I could keep my tablet if I did it right." I wanted to explode, but I didn't. I just put a hand on her shoulder and said, "Thank you for telling me. You didn't do anything wrong. I know it wasn't your fault." The CPS worker came back, and she hurried to sit down like nothing happened. My son gave me a small look like he wanted to say more but didn't. Then they were gone. I didn't make a scene in the hallway. Instead, I went straight to my lawyer and told him word for word what my daughter had just told me. He didn't waste time. He filed a written notice with the court that same afternoon. A week later, CPS scheduled a follow-up forensic interview, and in that session, my daughter repeated the same thing, that her mom had pressured her, promised her tablet privileges, and made her practice the lies. That sealed it into the official record instead of just being a whisper in a courthouse hallway. And just like that, I had more than just receipts. I had the truth from the kids themselves. December wasn't going to be a repeat of June. It was going to be the end of her games. December came fast. By then, I had my binder updated with everything. Receipts, Daniel's witness statement, screenshots, CPS reports, and the notes about my daughter's confession. I walked into the courthouse calm, focused, ready. She was already there with her lawyer, arms crossed, smirk plastered across her face like she hadn't just been torn apart at the last hearing. The judge came in, everyone stood, and then the final round began. Her lawyer went first, pushing for full custody. He painted me as unstable, claimed I had abandoned the kids, and kept circling back to the same old allegations. It was the same script, recycled, with no proof. Then my lawyer stood and opened the binder. He laid out the timeline of every false report, each one proven baseless or dismissed. He reminded the judge of Daniel's eyewitness statement, my video proof, and the receipts that cleared me of the concussion claim. Then he hit the big one, the daughter's disclosure. He explained how she admitted her mother pressured her to lie, bribed her with tablet privileges, and made her practice her story. He showed the notes and mentioned it had been passed to CPS for review. The courtroom got quiet. The judge leaned back in his chair, staring at my ex. She fidgeted, whispered something to her lawyer, then sat frozen. The judge spoke slowly. "I see a consistent pattern of allegations that do not hold up under scrutiny. This court takes false reporting very seriously. Coaching children to make statements they don't understand is extremely concerning." Her lawyer tried to object, saying the child was confused, but the judge shut him down. "We'll let CPS handle the interviews. For now, I have more than enough evidence of repeated false claims. That will weigh heavily in my ruling." Then came the moment. The judge finalized the divorce. He set official child support at $1,000 a month, the same number I had already agreed to when this mess began. "Now," the judge said, "we need to discuss custody and visitation." My lawyer looked at me. I stood. My voice was steady. "Your Honor, I'm asking the court to make child support official and leave it at that. I don't want custody or visitation at this time." The courtroom went still. The judge raised an eyebrow. You're certain? That's unusual. I nodded. Yes, sir. I love my kids. But every time I see them, she uses it as another weapon. I won't let them be caught in the middle anymore. I'll provide for them financially, but I won't be trapped in more lies. When they're older and can see the truth for themselves, my door will be open. The judge studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. The court finds the children aren't in danger with either parent and accepts your choice. Child support is finalized, and visitation is declined at this time. That was it. Legally finished. My ex exploded. She jumped to her feet, pointing at me, shouting, He's abandoning them! He's a deadbeat! He doesn't care about his own kids! The judge slammed his gavel. Enough. Sit down. This is not the place for outbursts. She sat, red-faced and fuming. I didn't even flinch. When it was over, I walked out with my binder under my arm. She stormed after me on the courthouse steps. You're nothing but a paycheck now. They'll hate you for this. I turned to her, calm as ever. No, they'll see the truth one day. And when they do, you'll be the one they hate. She froze, speechless for once. I walked away without looking back. That night, I sat at my kitchen table in my quiet house. No yelling, no accusations, no games. Just silence. For the first time in 2 years, I felt free. I thought about the kids, trick-or-treating, Christmas mornings, all the things I'd miss. It stung. But I knew forcing visits would only drag them through more lies. This way, they were out of the courtroom crossfire. They'd grow up, they'd start asking questions, and the pieces would fall into place. I wasn't giving up on them. I was giving up on letting her use them as weapons. I lost a marriage, and for now I lost time with my kids. But I kept my freedom, and that's worth more than anything she thought she could take from me.